Alright, hey man, what's up? So, I'm trying out my new Yeti microphone here. Hopefully it's kind of cool. It picks up a lot of background noise though, but hopefully I can get rid of that with the software. You have to have a pretty quiet environment for this fucking thing to work great. Right, so the first thing I like to do is, I just kind of think about the shapes of the character I'm drawing. What is it I'm drawing exactly? His head's tilted a little bit. That makes it a little more difficult to draw in the first place. And so I might actually straighten it out and then tilt it later when I'm done. And I think about the basic shapes. So I'm like, okay, I know I got kind of like somewhat of a boxy shape here I got to deal with the head. And I can also just kind of do it with an oval, but, you know, so something like this. And then I think about the center line, and then the eyes are going to be in the higher part of this box right around here. And so these are the things I think about. Next, I want to think about the nose. How high does the nose come up? Comes up relatively high, and it's kind of long. Comes down like this. And I'm not trying to draw what I see. I'm just, got to have at least the proportions of a wolf in there though, because without that, then it's not going to look correct. So this is some of the thought process I go through. I have a little bit of space here for the lip, and then I know I want the teeth coming out. I just think of the relation. I want the teeth kind of come up more like this, at this angle here. Maybe a little bit wider. And a lot of this, I started thinking about, wolves that, I'll do a study, like I don't just go into something and draw it if I never drawn it before. I do a few study drawings and get a feel for the form of what it is I'm drawing. And it's only after I have a feel for the form what I'm drawing that I'll go in and actually, attempt to draw my own version of something. Like I drew so many skulls, like different kinds of tattoo skulls and stuff like that before I kind of developed, so I was a lot younger. So one of the few things I was able to draw from my mind, because I had done so many studies, it wasn't really drawing from mind, it was more from memorization, but I was adding my own flair and likeness to it. So right now, again, I'm just blocking all the basic shapes right now. I know that these teeth are going to come out this way, so we're just going to see like some of the gum here, and we're going to see some of the tops of these teeth out like this. Actually, not that far. It's going to be more foreshortened. The photo doesn't show that part, but I know from the anatomy of teeth in general, human teeth even. Just add some bigger teeth in there, and we get the same idea, that same perspective, from the head's drawing course. And then I know I'm going to have other part of the nose in here. It all fits within this area. That's going to be all the flares, which are going to kind of come up in this area here. So I like to block everything out first. That way when I come in to invent, my invention, it will be on something that is like a wolf, like a werewolf, like a dog. If you don't have the basic blocking down, then what you end up drawing might look more like a baboon or something, So you want to make sure that you don't embellish too much. You want to have the base forms need to be there. And at the side of his head here, I'm going to come down with the I like this look better, so I'm going to come in really thin here. And then come up with some thick hair down here, like a goatee almost. And then from here we'll have some of the hair coming this way. We'll have some of the hair coming up this way. I like the dark hair in the center there, looks pretty cool. And then a bunch of other hair out this way. I like to actually be able to see the ears on werewolves, so it's kind of add a little, I'm gonna have it more pointy. The anatomy of ears are pretty much the same across species. There are some little differences, but if you draw on dog ears at all, that's pretty much what we're going to be doing here for wolf ears. Cat, dog, kind of the same kind of ears. I'm not sure how far that mane would go up. I'm kind of running out of canvas. Well, no, actually I'm not. I would kind of have it come up like this, and then I would kind of have all this mane come out this way. So he has part of like his back and stuff in there, kind of hunched over. And then, so I think a little bit of that hair coming up like that looks okay. Maybe all this hair right here should be more straight. Thinking maybe if it comes down, it might look cooler. This is where it comes into designing. You take design principles now, character creation principles, and start adding them to what you're drawing. And then he'd have like big shoulders coming out here. So once I have something like that, then it's just a matter of me coming in and adding my own details and stuff. And if I already know the anatomy of wolf and dog pretty well at this point, then I don't really need to even look at the image anymore. I've already blocked in the general likeness that I want. And so now, the more I branch off now into just kind of drawing from my mind, the more I can stylize it, and the more it'll take on my own look. With the sketch, if I'm gonna turn it to a painting, I try not to sketch too much, because like, why should I waste my time sketching so much detail and shadowing out when I can work all that out in the painting, especially if I already kind of know what I want it to look like. So some of these teeth here, we're seeing top down, foreshortened teeth here. And this kind of thing here, it takes a lot of time, so I'm not going to be doing a full painting. I would take way too much time. I don't have, I guess that's just too much time. That would end up costing a lot. I don't want you it could be more than the magnet printout. Not magnet, but whatever that material, vinyl material. Whatever it is, it sticks to metal and glass, and it peels off easy. So see, if all this right here is correct, every other detail you add into it will just look cool, Just got to get the main form down correct, and then from there, everything will also fall into play. Alright, so cool. And now, there's some details I might want to go ahead and put in the sketch here, just for I have something more. I don't have to think about so much when I'm painting, but I can also do this, during the painting process. So it just really, this really depends on my mood, actually, to be honest. Like how much detail I decide to add to a sketch. It depends on how much I want to sketch, how much I want to paint at the time. If I'm more in a painterly mood, then I'll add most of the detail while painting. I won't even do any of these kind of lines and stuff like that while drawing. And I'm not so sure he even needs so many wrinkles in this area, but honestly kind of don't like the eyes in the mask at all. I almost think I should just completely change them. So I definitely want a couple of nostril flares here. So make this kind of come like that. So I'm just thinking about the form that I'm looking at, really. I mean, I know from like experience that kind of the basic form I'm dealing with in here is a nose, foreshortened nose coming out toward me. So that's the basic form. It's like I have this, you know, lion, dog, foreshortened part of the nose coming out here, and it has this kind of, you know, shape like this to it when it comes to the form, and it goes recedes back into space. And I know from the side view, you know, it's more like what I'm dealing with is something like this, and it has the nose like this. And so I'm dealing with the snout that's coming out toward me and it's going back into space. I know if it has wrinkles on it, I have to add those wrinkles as well. But first I think about the form itself, and then I'm like, okay, now I can fit wrinkles, you know, onto that form. As it's receding back in space here. And then here I might add more little wrinkles, little details and stuff like that. Maybe a mask when it have. And this design of the mask here, I'm not sure I even like this part of the mask. The way they kind of do the, you know, I know these are forms that come out a little bit, you know, these are kind of like eyebrow bridges that kind of pop out. They have a little bit of form to them that pop out at us. And they're not flat. But from a side view, you know, if I were kind of think about it, they're like, eyeball sinks in, you know, you have the eyeball in here, you have this eyebrow bridge that comes out, you have the nose that's coming out here. I would just think about it in some basic way. But you know, as long as like I said, as long as I block in those main forms, everything else should fall into play pretty nicely. Now a lot of this here is all going to be dark skin. I don't think I'd go with blue like the mask. You know, I'd go with more of a muted. If I did use any sort of bluish purple color, it'd be very desaturated. I wouldn't really be able to tell the color so much. And this right here comes right into his snarly, almost like a smile, like dogs often look when they're snarling like that. Kind of looks like a wicked smile. I don't worry about so much, you know, I'm painting, so I don't really worry about so much how my sketch looks. As long as I can read it, that's all that matters to me. If I can read what the sketch is, then it's good, because I'll be able to paint it. I don't know if I'm really liking this whole look here of everything, but you know, I can always come back and redesign stuff, you know, so it's not like I have to stick with any particular thing. I can go look up some dog anatomy, werewolf anatomy and stuff, and kind of, you know, it's basically dog anatomy, same thing. This side over here, I just kind of paint everything dark. I have to go back in and, you know, when I paint it, add in the lighter spot around the eye here. That way it has the same look as the other eye. This is like the part of your eye that goes around, you know, your little eyelids. And then the wrinkles come up this way. kind of similar to human here because I'm kind of adding some human likeness to the dog, which is what's making it more werewolf-like. Yeah, but mostly it's dog anatomy. So I think that's looking kind of cool. I might even add like a little more of a different shape here. So I'm thinking to make it look more badass in my mind, I kind of want it to have this kind of shape like this, so it's kind of already looking wicked. That subtle little touch right there where it kind of comes down at an angle right here. Little things like that can make a pretty big difference in how the overall image ends up looking. I would add more contextual shadows to the actual eye itself as well. I want to just make it all light, make it more darks in there. And then I would add in my different highlights inside if I want any kind of window highlight in there or whatever. And little. I'm going a little bit further with the sketch than I probably would myself, just to kind of show that sketching process that you wanted to see. I probably would have taken less time, less detail, and just went right into painting, adjusting as I went along, what I liked and didn't like. And then from here, I don't even have to look at, actually I haven't really been looking at the painting or the mask for a while now, but so I'm kind of adding my own things in here. I got the gist of the likeness down already. From here, it's just all about what I want to do, and I can add a whole different light scheme that I want to add to it. I probably would do that. Add some more things in that area there. And the light scheme I might add, like I usually do, is where it comes down from the right. And so first I think about the overall light scheme. I know that right there's going to be highlights. All this is going to be shadowed in. This right here will be, highlight of the form. My main typical light source, hopefully I'll have to explain it. All this part of the ear will be shaded in. This part here won't be as bright. Some hair coming out here. All this right here would be shadowed. This part here would have highlight and some shadow. That inside there would be pretty much lit. That would have some light, that would have some shadow. The third, there'd be a lot of shadow in this area here because that whole part of the face is covering this whole part here being shadow. Form shadow, that is. The mouth would have a lot of shadow in here from the teeth blocking. Maybe even like an actual shadow like that for the tooth. That looks kind of cool. Tongue. Teeth would have their own little shadows where it shows a little bit of the form of the teeth. Alright, so this whole side of the face is going to be darker than the other side too. And this whole side of the... Then I go back in and add individual lighting to the actual curvature of each wrinkle and stuff like that. Thinking I want to come in, maybe come thinner with the nose like this. Now that be more light anyway. I don't know if I like that big old head, to be honest. I can tell that's how the mask looks, but it looks fucking retarded. I think shorter. Push your main look will look cooler here. That's pretty much it for the sketch, and then I make another layer underneath it. So if I don't mess the sketch up at all, and just turn it down a little bit, start adding my different shades. I can just start with black and white, work in my color, or I can start working in color. It doesn't really matter either way. I feel comfortable with doing either way, I think. Yeah, so what I'm gonna do here now is just do some black and white stuff, I guess. Quick rendering. Guess I'll use an oil brush for now. Make sure this is turned off. And we'll add some well, actually I should probably stick this black and white like I said, huh? So darker colors here. This whole side of the face I know is gonna be darker. So I'm gonna add all that darkness right away. Eyes will be dark. So I have been, checking out the oil brushes. They're pretty cool for laying down quick, colors. I kind of like it for that. That would all get lighter. Something like that. And then let's go back to watercolor, transparent. You kind of want to have color everywhere, so at least a little bit, because nothing's gonna be like white. I like to just get a basic idea of form down, and this is done very quickly, as you can see. Just quickly lay down. My idea for form. When I do this, notice I'm not really caring so much about details or anything at this point. I'm really just focusing on what's the overall main form I'm going for here. That's what I'm concerning myself with at this point. I'm trying really not to focus on details, and sometimes that's a task. Sometimes it's difficult not to get caught up and want to draw a bunch of details. So I can keep it very scribbly and stuff, and at the same time I'm trying to also maybe get some clear definition, not just like totally purposely trying to scribble or anything. I'm still thinking about the details and everything, things like fur and whatnot. Like that. So you can see how great of a change that makes right there, just adding those kinds of details. At this point, sometimes I'll make a copy of my layer here. Let's drag it down, make a copy of it, turn it off. Let's merge this down with the layer below it. So now when I come in here with details, what you're going to notice is that we'll go pure black now. As I come in now and start to paint in some details, I'm going right over my pencils now. My pencils are part of my painting, so especially with this watercolor brush, you can see how it just really starts to blend in. I'm just showing a little bit of different highlights that I'm pretty sure would show up with this kind of lighting scheme I'm going with. This comes just from a lot of experience of the nose. You know, I haven't done a lot of dogs or cats or anything like that, but I'm just, this form is familiar to me, the human nose even, you know, like I know that there's areas around here that highlights are going to hit. And I'm not basing that off the photo because I'm using a completely different lighting system. Where they have like a strong lighting coming from the left hand side, I think. My lighting is mainly just coming from the right hand side. Notice now I'm painting right over that part of the sketch, and I gotta be careful, you know, not to get rid of too much detail, and I gotta add in a lot of highlight. This is where I would come in with a more sharper pen tool as well, maybe either the pen tool or, you know, to add in these details. I either use the pen tool or some other paintbrush. Make sure I still have the shadows in here. Just trying to show that form. I know that light's hitting part of it. I just lightly come in and blend in a lot of this pencil sketch as well. Take some medium color in there that I had established. Just kind of start blending in some of these lines. Make it more painterly, less sketch-like. If I want to give it kind of a wet look, you know, then I would come in and I would add more. Sorry, I lost train of thought. I would add more little specular highlights and stuff. The gums are going to be relatively light. I need them to go kind of light to dark though. So I need to add some, you know, white. And this is where I would definitely come in and I'm gonna add a little bit of form highlight in here. This side's gonna be brighter than the other side. But mostly I mean, rendering just, you know, it takes time. That's all rendering is. It's time. It's laborious. So I'm trying to smooth out this tooth here. You know, I don't use this brush for the main details because it doesn't work good for that. But you know, it gets a nice painty look down right away, and it's, you know, pretty quick to put in there. And you know, I really don't like the way his eyes look, the way they're shadowed in. So I'm gonna do my own thing over here, like that, and then I'll have a little bit of light. And then again, I would probably use like the chalk or the colored pencil here. I like the colored pencil. So bigger size. Take off pen pressure for now. The oil works pretty good too, but I don't know, I really like this particular pencil. I might add a little bit of maybe window highlight over here, secondary highlight, make it lighter, darker rather. Let's take some really bright highlight. And now I'm going to use my pen tool. This is where, you want a really hard edge brush for like specular highlights. And I'm going to add a little bit of specular highlight details in here. I might use a lighter color, like not such a, dark or bright color, more of a darker highlight here. Just add little details. Come back in with dark, kind of breaking that up. You'll also see the same technique I used in that tutorial I just released. It shows a little bit of specular highlights in here. Shows some of the texture. Knowing that the light is going to be hitting over here quite a bit. Use some straight black now. I can always come back in there and start refining that as well with other brushes, soften some of that up. But honestly, I kind of like that look. It's kind of cool. Looks like I see individual lights, in the eyeball there. And I might take like something like airbrush here. Set to soft light. It's pretty much the default I have it set to anyway. That's pretty much all I use it for. Soft light or glow. Add some glow in there. Add some glow in here. Some glow to the side face. This is to add some more contrast to things as I'm working. This kind of helps bring it out more, and then go back to painting. I'm almost doing like a cell shading type of thing here, where I just come in with this brush and I kind of press semi-hard and get this, main texture. I want this main tone, rather, I want down in here. Then come back in, and smooth it out some more, but more cartoonish, like where it's just, but it looks painterly because of the brush. But I'm using the same technique, interesting enough, as I would if I were doing like a cell shading with Photoshop. I'm just coming in, boom, I'd be like a hard ink brush, The technique is the same. Where I'm just coming in and I'm adding that one color, that one area. Like bam, there's that one color right there. It's all one color, and then I take another color, which is all right there. Darker black here to start darkening a lot of this here. See, I just come right in, darken all that up. That's really it. I'll just keep coming down and following that process, and then check out my recent video of that painting, the real-time painting I released. Kind of reshape that a little bit. Here again, specular highlights. Make the nose look wet. So little specular texture highlights. This is what gives you that final look of texture and stuff, especially wetness, you know. These are just this little taps and lines and dots is what I use for texturing. There's still a lot of like detail. That's the final stage right there. I just want to show some of the final stage. What I would do is add those texturings and stuff in there. From here, I think you can kind of extrapolate and go, okay, now I kind of see where, you know, how he would do this. I'm gonna push the shadow center line here of the tooth. That way there's like a, I don't know if you'll be able to see what I'm trying to do here, but there's like a double light system on the tooth there. And the double light system, as you can see, so there's like a double light system, and then all that right there I need to blend into the actual face. I should draw the tooth over that layer, make it easier, like draw 2 layers, make it easier for myself. But see, first I think about the main form that I'm dealing with. Then I come back in and I start thinking about more micro forms. Then I come back in finally and I start thinking about, you know, specular highlights and textures. Like in this case, it's more hairs, so I come out with a hard brush. Usually I add, for any textures, I usually use the ink brush or a pencil, you know, something that has hard, very hard lines, you know, clear hard lines. I don't want any fuzziness. Just adding that detail of the hairs in there. And then there'll be hairs back here. You know, anyway, this is a very detailed painting, you know, so like I said, I won't be able to go through all of this. It'll take way too long. I'll actually use the colored pencil for some of this here. Sometimes I might use a darken brush with soft light and just darken all this side a little bit more so it kind of recedes back into space more. So to do that, you'd pick darken for the airbrush, pick a color that you want it to be a little bit darker than, and it's only going to color, you know, those areas darker and not going to make anything that's lighter than this darker, right? So this comes in handy for that. Just kind of darken up one side of the face a little bit. And then I'll come back in with my brushes and go, okay, cool. So I add a little lighter of a highlight in here, but not much. Now I'll add some specular highlighting too. I need a little bit brighter color. Just little parts of texture and bumps that are sticking out a little bit. You know, add some texture to the teeth. Add some maybe stains to the teeth in here as well. You know, painting is a mix up between like soft edges and hard edges. You know, I've talked about that before. And you definitely want to make sure you have some hard edges in there to add certain details, and you can kind of just, you know, especially if you have a reference, you can kind of see where those hard edges should be. You can tell the parts in the painting or in the mask, photograph, whatever it is you're looking at, you can tell the parts that have that stronger look to them. Let's go with a really bright highlight here. Right now I'm trying to lose the hard edges, well, not hard edges, the dark edges of the teeth, making them light. Then I'll have just the, the background of the teeth actually come and do the rest of the work for me. Let's make this pitch black here. I can always come back when I do the color and make the color in that particular area, not as dark. So I come here and start adding all this detail in here. I definitely want this darker color down here. I can probably use pencil for this, colored pencil, which is more of a soft edge. I can also give it a harder edge too. I'm pretty sure the settings allow me to come in there and give the pencil a slightly harder edge. But I start with a more soft edge first, then I work my way to a darker edge if I feel darker edge is necessary. And I don't know how far you may want me to take this, but all this right here, this is where you're going to have a lot of specular highlight. So I'm going to use a hard brush for all this. Mine, I want, different from the mask, is going to be more on just the right hand side. That's where the brightest. I can also do like layers, like you can take this tool here. This is actually really, good method to get certain specular highlights in. And you go, okay, I want kind of a specular highlight in this area here. Then you take your watercolor brush, whatever kind of brush you want, doesn't really matter. Yeah, take that lighter color and add it in there. And that gives you that more refined kind of glossy look. It's really a cool way to do like glossy kind of stuff that doesn't have a lot of texture. Right, so hopefully you can take that knowledge that I just did here. I don't think I need to go and like finish this into some final painting or anything like that. We can see that just based on what I have here and the little, I went through a full process on some parts from beginning to end, and then you just keep applying that process to the rest of the form throughout, and miniature details within details, or forms stacked on top of forms, and you get an overall look when you're done. That's how I would kind of go about a project like this. And you can see that my end result has its own style to it. What I didn't like is the how the face was kind of wide up here, and then it kind of had this cool wide mouth, but it kind of bubbled out here like this, and it had this like bubbling effect down to here, and those shapes didn't work for me. So I like this slender shape down and come back out again. This shape here works better for me for a violent werewolf type of snarl, for me anyway. I really like that. The really extra long mouth, I think, adds some style to it. I can always make it more realistic and shorten this down, but I think it's kind of cool how long I made the mouth. So it just, I don't know, I like this overall look better. So that's how I go about it, add my own style to something like that. It is a hard photo to work from, but just know the forms from your imagination. It's a dog, so just go, okay, I know these forms, and I'm just going to take those forms into that next level. Now hopefully I think I'm too far away from this microphone, but I don't think it's gonna allow for the noise to be taken out as much as if I was closer to it, but hopefully it'll be alright. Alright, so I'm gonna add just one other thing here real quick. I add this like darker form in here, and then some lighter texture in here underneath the eyelids. All this will be more dark. Ears will be dark. So have some lighter hairs in there though, which I'd come back and add texture to and all that. Now I'd have a little bit of highlight right in here. This is like an edge. There's an edge that comes right out here, and I would probably add a little bit lighter color. Now I'd come in with a pencil, either a smaller pencil or the pen tool to add the texture to that. But the whole form angles away more, so it gets darker. I just have that little bit of ridge there. And really, that's how you get detail. It's just smaller brushes. I don't really, put the pressure sensitivity on them. I very rarely use pressure sensitivity when painting. That is, notice all of them don't have any pen pressure for size. Size mechanics is totally off. Again, adding a little bit of texture in here, little lines and stuff like that. So, yeah. This is with the pencil tool. It's very similar to Photoshop. I pick up the color with Alt and pull it down. Then the final selection, or layer, I would come in and start adding some hairs in here. Some free flow hairs. That'd be the final texture, is all those little final hairs I would add to the outside of the painting. Yeah, I think the end result would come out pretty badass when I was done with this. And I might work on this here and there, actually. Kind of like it. Might actually just visit this here and there when I'm bored, if I have time. And maybe turn it to a final little rendering. Painting of speed painting. That's pretty much all I do these days now, speed paintings. I don't really do final total like detailed renders. I kind of leave a lot of it that kind of unfinished look, but then add details in selected places, and I like that look. Let's add a little more gum here. Zooming out like this a lot I think is a good thing too. I'd come in and add that, glossy line here. Contrast against, it's really just dark against light, which adds that contrast, makes it look like a contrasty line right here. It's the middle section of the tongue. Add texture and all that crap. Yeah, but yeah, I like the way this is coming out. I like the style I gave to it. You can tell the difference. You can tell it's inspired from that photo. But then again, maybe not. You might just go, hey, this is like if someone saw that photo, then later on saw this, they might not make the correlation that one was inspired from the other. And to me, that's the ultimate goal. When you're trying to be inspired by something, is to make it so much your own that if someone were to see them the two side by side later, they might not even recognize it. They might not even make the correlation. Show them the mask one day, as an experiment, let's say, and then show them your sketch a couple days later. Don't say nothing. Just show them, hey, look, I came up with this. It's really cool. And see if they even notice the correlation between the two references. If they even notice that you were inspired by one into the other. Notice I use a hard pencil, small pencil that's hard, or even a paintbrush to get a lot of my little details in there when I finally decide to add details. And with the eye, I think I would add a little bit more. I'm going to go with some specular little notches here, some little muscles and stuff. and some like darker veins in between that. Then I'm going to take the soft light, or even maybe glow dodge, which is a pretty cool drop down feature. I like it. Kind of adds interesting details where you want it. And then I come back in and add soft light, which is more of a even overlay, either one. Add some darkness here. They can add dark or light with overlay and soft light. Then you add a brighter color. Kind of adds that more metallic-y to the eyes, and come back in and repaint over that again so it's not maybe as glossy. And you can also use my technique here where you add this shape in here, you know, come over like that, and then just make another layer even. Same Photoshop techniques, you know, I show. Add a light color like so, and then you can take that layer and erase it or turn it down. It just adds that kind of specular, you know, kind of like highlight over stuff. Anyway, really good for wet stuff like eyes and tongue and things like that. Right, so I think that's it. Came out to be almost an hour long. Like I said, if I were to try to paint all this to like any sort of finished thing, this would be a long video. But yeah, that's how I'd go about it. Hopefully that helps what you were trying to accomplish with likeness there. You know, when I talk right into the microphone like this, I think it probably sounds better, and you probably can't hear the background noise as much. But yeah, hopefully the noise reducing thing helps with the background noise on the software. I know you want me to do a private video on inking too, that particular inking process. And what I might do is just take this right here and turn it to an inked drawing. I think this is actually really cool. I like this. This is a good thing to turn into like an ink drawing, just kind of show how to get that dark style of inks and how I would go about getting it and think about the light sources and stuff. But yeah, thanks for watching.